Very good afternoon. This is the midday news on Rajya Sabha television. I am Aishwarya Kapoor with you. All the biggest developing news stories at the top of one coming up ahead. Let us start with the headlines. Ahead of budget presentation, Prime Minister Modi to meet ministers, Niti Aayog officials, industrialists, focus on roadmap to boost economy, jobs. Encephalitis death toll 140 in Bihar, 128 deaths in Muzaffarpur alone. Central team headed by Principal Secretary arrives in Muzaffarpur. Doctors say rains to provide respite from the rising cases of AES. Pakistan must take verifiable, irreversible steps against terrorism, says India. After global watchdog, FATF issues dire warning to Pakistan on terror financing. Gives Islamabad the time till October to show results or get blacklisted. US seeks a UN Security Council meeting over Iran shooting down US drone. President Donald Trump says he called off military action after being told it could kill 150 people. And in World Cup cricket, India take on Afghanistan today. Rishabh Pant to make a tournament debut, replacing injured Shikhar Dhawan. In another clash, New Zealand to face West Indies. Yesterday, Sri Lanka shocked tournament favourites England, won by 20 runs. The top story this afternoon, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold a meeting with economists and experts this evening, organised by the think tank Niti Aayog. The meeting will be attended by various ministers, Niti Aayog officials, leading economists, sectoral experts and industrialists. The meeting is being held to discuss economic policy roadmap for promoting growth and employment generation. Prime Minister Modi is also likely to discuss the budget proposals in the meeting. Let's get all the updates. Kriti Mishra, colleague, is joining us on the phone line. Kriti, a very good afternoon. So Prime Minister Modi will chair this fifth meeting of the Governing Council of the Niti Aayog, which will be held at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. What more details you have about this meeting?
Well, that's a very important meeting that the Prime Minister is going to hold today with top economists of the country. Because remember, this meeting comes ahead of the full presentation of budget on 5th of July. So there are several issues that Prime Minister is likely to discuss with the economists. So a strategy to improve the condition of economy, agriculture, exports and health system are likely to be discussed in the meeting. There would be agendas like how to accelerate agriculture growth and also how to encash this opportunity of global trade war and also to propel exports from the country. Those are the important agenda. Those are the important items on the agenda that are likely to be discussed today. And also we may see some of these suggestions incorporated in the budget proposals that the government will be presenting on 5th of July. Over to you, Aishwarya.
Absolutely. So very important meeting there. And this is the first meeting under Modi 2.0. As pointed out by Kriti, important issues are going to be discussed, including some budget proposals ahead of the presentation of budget. Thank you so much, Kriti, for all those updates on that big story. And on to some other news now. The Ministry of External Affairs has said that it expects Pakistan to take all necessary steps against terror financing. MEA spokesperson said that India expects Pakistan to effectively implement the FATF action plan fully by September and take credible, verifiable and irreversible measures to address global concerns related to terrorism and terrorist financing emanating from its soil. Now, India's response comes after global financial watchdog Financial Action Task Force, or the FATF, issued a stern warning to Pakistan, stating that the country could be blacklisted if it fails to eliminate terror financing. Now, the Paris-based global body has asked Pakistan to reassess the operation of banned terrorist outfits by October or face action, which could possibly lead to the country getting blacklisted. In a statement, the FATF expressed concern that not only did Pakistan fail to complete its action plan items with January deadlines, it also failed to complete its action plan items due May 2019. The FATF has strongly asked Pakistan to swiftly complete its action plan by October 2019, when the last set of action plan items are set to expire. Otherwise, the FATF will decide the next step at that time for insufficient progress, the international financial body said, leaving a strong warning to Pakistan. The FATF, remember, had placed Pakistan on the grey list of the countries in June last year. And this means that FATF considers Pakistan to have weak domestic laws to deal with the challenges related to terrorism and terrorist financing. And if Pakistan continues to remain in the grey list, it would risk being downgraded by the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank, besides facing a negative assessment by the credit rating agencies. And if blacklisted by FATF, Pakistan also stands the risk of facing global sanctions. And reacting to the FATF's warning, Pakistan said that it was committed to taking measures needed to implement the action plan agreed with the FATF to come out of the grey list. All right, let's get all the updates. Our colleague Akhilesh Suman is now joining us on the phone line for more details. Akhilesh, a very good afternoon. So the MEA has reacted to that warning of the FATF to Pakistan. And MEA has said that it expects Pakistan to take all necessary measures against terror financing. But, what are the steps that Pakistan is going to take now in order to come out of that grey list and also make sure that it doesn't enter that blacklist?
Right. The way FATF has given statement, it is based on the deliberations of last 6 days. The FATF committee was sitting from 16 June, and finally it came to the conclusion on 21st June on Pakistan and various other countries. So on Pakistan, it has observed 10 points. And in 10 points, if you go through all the 10 points, I think FATF is quite disturbed because of insensitivity of Pakistan about terror funding. And in all those 10 points, the understanding, supervision of risk is lacking in Pakistan. So Pakistan doesn't even understand that how dangerous it can be for others. Sanctions applied on organizations are not working, FATF has said. And enforcement agencies of Pakistan are not working at all against the illegal money that is floating in Pakistan. Cash couriers in Pakistan are not identified by the Pakistani establishment who are taking money from one part to another part and giving money to the terrorists. Interagency coordination is lacking in Pakistan at all about the terror funding. Investigation of terror funding is also absent in Pakistan. Enhancing capacity of prosecutors and judiciary is one of the major recommendations of FATF, because FATF feels that judiciary is not quite, independent and free to take action against the cases against the terrorists in Pakistan. So I think this is one of the biggest insinuation that FATF statement has come. And FATF has also said that, whatever action has to be taken against those who are named by 1267 committee and 1373 committee of UN Security Council against terrorists. And so that means that no action has been taken against Hafiz Saeed, Masood Azhar, and other people who had been involved in terrorist activities against India, against Afghanistan, or many other countries. So I think FATF statement is quite strong, and Pakistan has to, deal with it, and Pakistan has to take action against it, because this time, even though China, Turkey and Malaysia has come together and saved Pakistan for blacklisting at this moment,
Yes.
but beyond October they cannot, because every country has now become sensitive that the way Pakistani establishment had been involved in increasing and also encouraging the terror funding, it cannot be done in that way. And that Indian delegation was also present in the FATF meeting that was led by Joint Secretary of Ministry of External Affairs.
Yes.
And they have given extensive dossier against Pakistan's activity on terror funding that is working against India, against Afghanistan and many other countries, including even Chinese. So I think this is a very big red herring for Pakistan.
Yes.
And they have to act. And that is why India has said that by September this year, you should take action that should be visible,
Yes.
that should be understandable, and that should be action-oriented, so that
Absolutely.
everyone
It should be
in the world
irreversible
should
as
know
well.
and should understand and should feel that action has been taken. And I think once the terror funding is blocked, I think terrorists will be crippled, and that will be one major blow against the terrorists that are residing inside the Pakistani
But
territory.
right,
That's
but
Maria?
whether Pakistan does take those actions or not, we have to wait and watch. Thank you so much, Akhilesh, for all those updates on that big story. And news from Bihar now, where the death toll in the deadly encephalitis outbreak continues to mount. Now, 4 more children have succumbed to the acute encephalitis syndrome, taking the total death toll to 140. The government-run SKMCH hospital has alone accounted for 108 casualties so far. 20 children have died in private Kejriwal hospital, taking the toll in Muzaffarpur alone to 128. Now, as per official figures, over 600 children are affected by the disease. The doctors, however, are claiming that rains in Bihar are expected to bring down the number of encephalitis cases in the city. Meanwhile, a central team headed by Principal Secretary has arrived in Muzaffarpur today to assess the situation.
अभी तक इस 12 बजे रात से अभी तक किसी बच्चे का एडमिशन नहीं हुआ है। यह मौसम का थोड़ा सा राहत है हम लोगों पे। एक बच्चे का डेथ जरूर हुआ है 8 बजे के 12 बजे के बाद से, और टोटल डेथ 108 है।
According to the Met Department, conditions are becoming favorable for further advance of the southwest monsoon in the country. Predicting heavy rains in most parts of Maharashtra, the Met Department has said that there is widespread rainfall likely this weekend in the Konkan region. In the last 24 hours, isolated parts of Goa and Konkan have received heavy rains. And parts of central Maharashtra and Marathwada also received moderate rainfall. And moderate to heavy rainfall is also expected in Pune and neighboring areas on Sunday as well. And significant weather changes are also likely to be seen in Telangana, Odisha, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, Jharkhand and East Uttar Pradesh over the next 72 hours. On to some other news now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Japan next week to attend the G20 summit. The Ministry of External Affairs announced on Friday that the Prime Minister will attend the 14th G20 summit in Osaka in Japan from 28th to 29th of June. He will be accompanied by former Union Minister Suresh Prabhu. The G20 summit will focus on issues such as financial stability, WTO reforms, black money, and of course, terrorism will be on top of the agenda for India. The summit will also be attended by heads of state of or government of member countries, EU and other invited nations and international organizations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has emerged as the world's most powerful person in 2019 in the Readers' poll conducted by UK-based British Herald magazine. Winning 30.9% of the votes polled, Prime Minister Modi was well placed ahead of his closest contenders, which include Russian President Vladimir Putin, US President Donald Trump, and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Prime Minister Modi will now be featured on the cover page of the 15th of July edition of the magazine. It earlier featured New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern in May-June issue and Putin in its March-April issue. We'll slip into a very short break here. We'll be right back with more news. Don't go anywhere. Our special segment related to budget now. India's real estate sector witnessed some significant developments over the past year and a half. The sector has become more transparent and organized due to the recent policy changes. However, as the real estate sector faces the problems of high inventory, low liquidity and high input costs, here is the budget wish list of the real estate sector.
The government has set in motion some long-term reforms in real estate sector like the Real Estate Regulation and Development Act or RERA and the GST. Over the coming years, these measures are expected to transform the unorganized and opaque nature of the sector and make it more transparent. The government's Housing for All by 2022 is also a significant step in ensuring affordable housing for the low and mid-income segments. Now, the real estate sector is demanding enforcing RERA uniformly across states, industry status, single window clearance, and steps to control artificial price rise.
Prime Minister's programs at the macro level have really helped in the last 5 years. And now I think they will become even more realistic. So price of properties will stabilize and come down probably in most of the unrealistic places. Maybe property will become a little bit more affordable now in the coming time.
In its interim budget, the government proposed many tax concessions, like a hike in the TDS threshold for deduction of tax from rent, incentives to save capital gains tax, and increase in tax exemption limit. Many home buyers expect a continuation of such measures.
होम बायर जो लोन लेता है, लोन मिल भी जाता है, टैक्स भी ज़्यादा टैक्स भी लेता है उनसे, उनको कुछ फ़ायदा भी नहीं मिलता, कुछ भी नहीं मिलता उनसे. इसलिए मैं चाहता हूँ गवर्नमेंट सुपरवाइज करता हूँ उनके टैक्स रिलैक्सेशन कर दिया जाए, उनको कोई सुविधा दिया जाए टैक्स के लिए.
The Indian real estate market could jump fivefold to $650 billion by the year 2040. It will also be the second largest employment generator, contributing almost 13% to country's GDP. If the Indian economy is estimated to be one of the fastest growing economy in the world, it will be possible only if the realty sector performs well. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
International news now. The United States has sought a United Nations Security Council meeting amid escalating tensions with Iran. This after a US drone was shot down by Iranian forces earlier this week. Now, Iran confirmed on Thursday that it brought down the unmanned aircraft in the Iranian airspace. The US, however, said that the drone was in international territory when it was hit by a surface-to-air missile. Meanwhile, Donald Trump on Friday called off a retaliatory strike on Iranian targets that would have killed 130 people, calling it a disproportionate response to the downing of the American drone.
They came and they said, "Sir, we're ready to go. We'd like a decision." I said, "I want to know something before you go. How many people will be killed? In this case, Iranians." I said, "How many people are going to be killed?" "Sir, I'd like to get back to you on that." Great people, these generals. They said, came back, said, "Sir, approximately 150. And I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what? They shot down an unmanned drone, plane, whatever you want to call it. And here we are sitting with 150 dead people that would have taken place probably within a half an hour after I said, go ahead. Yeah. And I didn't like it. I didn't think it was proportionate.
Meanwhile, in related news, India has expressed concern over developments in the Strait of Hormuz impacting oil prices. This after US and Iran tensions escalated. India has sought OPEC kingpin Saudi Arabia's active role in keeping rates at a reasonable level. Oil Minister Dharmendra Pradhan discussed the situation with the Saudi Oil Minister Khalid Al-Fali over the phone and reiterated the sensitivity of the Indian consumers to the prevailing oil price volatility. About a quarter of the world's LNG and about 1/5 of the world's oil transits through this Strait of Hormuz, the narrow sea conduit that borders Iran. More international news. US President Donald Trump has nominated Mark Esper, an Army veteran, to be the next Defense Secretary. The nomination of Esper, who is currently serving as the Secretary of the Army, comes days after Patrick Shanahan withdrew his nomination from the top Pentagon position. The US Senate needs to confirm his nomination before Esper can be sworn in as the US Defense Secretary. His first and most pressing task will be overseeing an expanding presence in the Middle East as tensions with Iran rise. And now all the action from the ICC Cricket World Cup. Well, Team India will take on Afghanistan today in Southampton today in their fifth match of the tournament. The men in blue are looking to continue their winning streak at the Rose Bowl, where they defeated South Africa on 5th of June. Now, India have not lost a match so far in the tournament, having won 3 of their 4 matches, while one match against New Zealand was washed out. India are currently in the top 4 teams in the points table with 7 points. However, Team India will be missing its 2 key players, Shikhar Dhawan and Bhuvneshwar Kumar. Wicketkeeper batsman Rishabh Pant is set to make his World Cup debut today in place of Dhawan. Afghanistan, however, are yet to win a match in the tournament. They have lost all the 5 matches that they have played till now. And in another World Cup clash today, New Zealand will face West Indies at Manchester's Old Trafford ground today. The match will start at 6 p.m. India time. And yesterday, in a thrilling upset in the World Cup, Sri Lanka defeated tournament favourites and hosts England by 20 runs in Leeds, keeping their hopes of a semi-final spot alive. Chasing 233, the hosts were smothered by brilliant Sri Lankan bowling performance. And with this loss, England stayed third in the 10-team table. But their 3 most difficult group games, namely against Australia, India and New Zealand, are yet to be played. And with a win, Sri Lanka climbed to the 5th spot, only 2 points behind England. And with that, we wrap up this edition of Midday News. Thanks so much for your time.